Well, hello everyone. Welcome to your Essentials group on 1st and 2nd Samuel. As you know, the goal of this program is simply to familiarize you and the rest of the parish with particular books of the Bible, one book at a time. And as you do that, the hope is that you would come to see and know Jesus Christ even deeper through a familiarity with what God does in the Scriptures themselves, even in the Old Testament.
Now this term we'll focus on the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel, which are long, arcing narratives about the early leaders of Israel as a nation. These stories are absolutely critical to how we understand God's purposes, what His followers look like, the shape of the church, God's promises to us, and even the character of Jesus. Because these books are a long narrative, we do suggest you read them along with the reading guide, rather than simply focus on the specific reading given for each particular session. As you'll see, it's difficult to comprehend the larger movement of the story if you simply dip in and out of its broader plotline. Also, we simply think you'll enjoy it a whole lot more if you read the entire story. You'll find that the stories are actually quite captivating, and you'll be surprised at how easy of a read these books really are.
Now, as a preliminary introductory note, there are a few helpful details that will aid your engagement with this story. So first, when people tend to think about 1st and 2nd Samuel, I would bet most of them think about David, the famous king of Israel. And yet, even while David is probably the dominant figure in the story, remember the main character in this whole story truly is God Himself. This is a story about what God is doing. If you reflect back on everything that has gone before 1st and 2nd Samuel, from the stories of Genesis and Exodus to Israel's entrance into the Promised Land and their unification and eventual dissolution under the leadership of the judges, you'll notice there is this whole movement of God. God takes a people who are basically nobodies. He creates a people out of nothing, essentially, with Abraham, and He gives them a purpose, which is this: to display and embody God's character to a broken world. And so in this grand story, the Israelites fail again and again, and yet God is absolutely resolute in this purpose. He will guide, you'll see, and shepherd this people, Israel, into a whole kingdom that displays His character to the rest of the world. You see, that is what God is doing in 1st and 2nd Samuel. He's creating not just a family, not just a clan, not just some ethnic tribe, but an entire nation, a kingdom of citizens who will bear His name and carry His presence. Again, this is a story about God building a kingdom out of sinners.
Of course, when we get into the details of this kingdom that's being built, we see that none of it is simple. And so another aspect of this story to be prepared for is the messiness of it all. Nearly every character in the story makes enormous mistakes, and all of them are broken people. And so do not be surprised by the sinfulness of God's people that we see here. Even while many of them are given a calling by God to carry out a particular task or to play a particular role, they fail again and again. And yet God is still faithful. Despite their sinfulness and their infidelity, God still carries out His purposes. And in that way, you'll notice where all of this is leading. God has covenanted Himself to His people, and He has great plans for them.
That last word is key, covenant. The covenant that God made with Abraham and his people back in Genesis, it still stands even here. The covenant He made with Moses continues in Deuteronomy, and here He makes the same covenant with David, that His people will become a whole nation, an entire people who bear His name and likeness into the world as a light to all peoples, tribes, and nations. That covenant is steadfast, and we'll see that on display in both of these books.
And again, it's not that the people of Israel are special, maybe morally superior, and that will become abundantly clear. The purpose of all of this is to show that God intends to build and hold up these people in order for the whole world to comprehend His own character through their obedience, through their failure, through their covenantal love, and their humility.
Above all, we hope that you come to see God's character on display in these stories and that you enjoy this story as it takes us deeper and deeper into the very heart of God's character and and what it looks like to live underneath His incredible grace to us.